Hey, what's up everybody? Justin here to make another review, Slam Dunk. And let me talk about Slam Dunk today. In the great time of the 1990s, we had the best basketball player of all time, Michael Jordan. And along with him, the 1992 Dream Team. The best basketball team ever put together. Granted, Jordan's generation brought basketball popularity in many countries around the world. It took a manga about basketball to make it big in Japan, and that manga was Slam Dunk. And today, I review the anime version of what is one of the most hottest selling manga titles in Japan. Alright? The manga got so big that Inoue Takehito, the original author, countlessly got letters from young fans that they now played basketball in school because of his manga. And what's this manga about, or the anime version, as I may say? It centers around Sakuragi Hanamichi, one of the toughest motherfuckers in the Kanagawa Prefecture and the leader of his own gang. Despite his reputation, his size, and fighting prowess, throughout junior high school he asked out 50 girls only to be rejected by all of them. And by the 50th rejection, the girl said she preferred someone on the basketball team, and now he hates basketball because of that experience. And a few months have passed, or a few weeks per se, and Sakuragi and his gang have moved on to Shohoku High School. Sakuragi now has his eyes set on a new girl, Akagi Haruko. Noticing Sakuragi's natural physical attributes, she wonders if he plays basketball, and hoping to impress her, he shows interest in playing. And throughout the introduction of the remaining characters, things get complicated. Haruko already likes another guy, Rukawa, a fellow basketball team member, who is just as tall as Sakuragi and was one of the best players while still in junior high. And to make things worse, Haruko's brother is the captain of the basketball team and initially has a difficult relationship with Sakuragi, but recognizes his potential. Despite these obstacles, Sakuragi sets out to become the best basketball player ever to win the affections of Haruko. And this anime has almost everything: action, comedy, tragedy, romantic tension, manly moments, etc. The cast is pretty huge, and when possible, each character or group gets their chance to shine. A great percentage of the characters each contribute something to the advancement of the story and get their moment in the sun to do so. It doesn't have to be Sakuragi, who gets everything, or the rest of the Shohoku team. Even Sakuragi's gang gets their chances to do something every now and then. But what really touches me about this story is how strong the relationships develop, especially the loyalty of Sakuragi's gang and how far they go to support that he can become part of the basketball team. Even though Sakuragi and his friends may not have the best brains, they make up for it with their hearts, and this anime has just a big amount of heart. I know a lot of people are put off by the concept of sports anime, but I think people really need to give this one a chance. The story moves at a very moderate pace, and I found the characters to be very relatable and realistically portrays the culture of high school sports in Japan. Even though Sakuragi starts basketball to impress a girl, it is fun to see how he progresses, and you really start to cheer for him like he was your own friend that really started something. Even though he was gifted with the perfect genetics for the sport, he still has to learn from the beginning, and some of his struggles are just juvenile to those that at least know the basics of basketball. But you really feel his passion at the right moments and hopes that he can live up to his full potential. Then you get the other characters not just on Shohoku, but on the other teams as well, and how they have their dreams and work just as hard to make them come true. There are no bad guys, and everybody's relatable in their own way, and each have something to prove, and they're all very likable. Earlier I mentioned the realistic aspects of Japanese sports culture, in the schools I mean. In Japan, many high schools are known for their sports teams, and some kids are recruited to a school based on their ability on a certain sport. This is most especially true in baseball, where the Koshien, the high school World Series in Japan, is a very big deal. I liked how they touched this from the coach of Ryonan High School. It is true that some students join a school to join a team that is coached by this particular person, and I really like how they really expanded on that. And for that, I give the story and characters a 9 out of 10. I really like the character design in this, though it is a little difficult to transition from how Inoue-sensei does it in the manga. The anime works in its own way, that it just has this artistic distinction that still carries on. I found the design to be very diverse and expresses many atmospheres within the story between the characters. It can be very realistic looking, or just plain out cartoony. Some characters have the generic anime design like Haruko, or a more realistic design like her brother, Gori, Gorilla for short, which is his nickname. In a way, Sendo's design in the anime kind of bothers me. He didn't really look like a high school student by making his eyes more rectangular. In the original manga, his eyes were more circular, and I thought that particular approach to his design makes him look more appropriately like a teenager. And I'll address some of that more later when I get to the music and voice acting. However, the anime addresses at times about how characters look older than they look, like Maki from Kainan and Akagi, the team captain. I also really like how the anatomy of the players accurately show what a basketball player looks like. You know, this kind of tall, muscular build meant for speed and cardio. Of course, naturally bigger players like centers, very early show, what each position, which their traits are as well. Like, for example, certain centers, they don't have the best free throws, like Shaq or Dwight Howard or Wilt Chamberlain. And the basketball games may bring the intensity of, let's say, the 1990s NBA games, but it's pretty fun to watch, and in certain moments, the anime will explain the fundamentals of basketball for people who have no familiarity with the sport. At least the games are not anything like in Prince of Tennis, where their abilities equate to, let's say, killing off the dinosaurs. So don't expect any silly shit like that. I mean, if you really liked Hajime no Ippo for its realism, then you're also going to like Slam Dunk for its respective realism as well. And Inoue-sensei referenced a lot of NBA pictures from magazines, and the form that the characters show in their lives in Slam Dunks just really highlight that level. Rukawa, for example, he's kind of like Michael Jordan. Sakuragi, he's also like Dennis Rodman with a little bit of Charles Barkley. And Miyagi, he's also like Muggsy Bogues. So they really know how to portray those aspects of basketball into the manga and anime. But in reference to that, about how he was referencing pictures, I heard that Inoue-sensei got in trouble for some copyright dispute, but, anybody who does art knows that artists reference all the time. But going back on track, the resolution and contrast will look a little grainy and rough, but I don't mind it. I think it suits the delinquent and manliness of this series, as opposed to looking very outdated. So I also give the art and animation a 9 out of 10. Next, I am opening this part of the review with my score with a perfect 10 out of 10. The first opening theme alone, Kimi ga Sukidato Sakebitai, meaning I want to shout that I love you, just qualifies for it. It just brings this energy and intensity that accurately reflects the nature of the series about wanting to impress a girl and also giving it your all. You can feel your warmth, the flow with the drum beats and the guitar licks. It's a song we can all relate to. And even if you just don't understand the lyrics when you're just listening to, let's say, the MP3 or on the CD, just feeling with the flow, you just get that feeling. And I feel if people make a top anime song list and they don't list this song, Kimi ga Sukidato Sakebitai, you are not a true anime fan. And this is one of the very few instances I will say something like that. And the other instances I'll say that is for Pegasus Fantasy from Saint Seiya and Heart of the Sword from Rurouni Kenshin. But moving on, whenever you watch a high school basketball game in Japan, you are most likely to hear this song in the opening ceremony. Most times I've been to one, I would always hear this song, and it shows just how much Slam Dunk had an impact on basketball in Japan. And the other theme songs also bring the same qualities that reflect the nature of the series. Another reason for my 10 out of 10 is just for Midori Hikaru alone as the voice of Rukawa. He's one of the best saves of all time, for crying out loud. And he's just played all kinds of characters, from the enthusiastic Michael from Marmalade Boy, the romantic Tamahome from Fushigi Yugi, the dark soldier of Hiroyui from Gundam Wing, and this time he's the anti-social Rukawa. He can just do any voice he wants. Or he can just, capture any emotion or atmosphere of a character he wants to, though his voice is really recognizable. And Sakuragi is played by another top name from the 90s, Kusao Takashi, the voice of Trunks from Dragon Ball Z. His voice is more, of course, recognizable as well, but it sounds more rough and scratchy. Even though as Trunks he sounded aggressive, the future Trunks, he still had something of a soft voice. Along with the rough and scratchiness at times, it is appropriately comedic. In a way, it works in a very well-rounded sense. Another seiyuu I happened to enjoy was the voice of Tanaka Hideyuki as Kogure, or Megane-kun to Sakuragi. In case you didn't know, he's the Japanese voice of Otacon and Huey from the Metal Gear Solid series. The design of the character has a physicality that just looks like those two characters, and I thought the voice just perfectly fixed, and I think it was just a performance that just paved way for this legendary role. As previously stated, I also had an issue with Sendo coming across as feeling older than a teenager. And I think that also had something to do with his voice actor, Otsuka Hochu, the voice of Jiraiya from Naruto as a seiyuu. His voice is very easy to recognize if you're familiar with that particular role, of course, but I guess his jokey and relaxed nature does bring a youthfulness to it in some ways. And Sendo does have a sense of humor, and I feel in some ways Otsuka Hochu does capture that. Then again, it didn't go into the extremes of his performances as, let's say, Chibode and G Gundam, where he calls Domon Japanese and Domon Japanese and Sai Chinese, and I just like the way how he just enunciates it. The cast and music just go on and on. I feel for music lovers and seiyuu buffs, that alone makes Slam Dunk worth watching. And, well, I know a good number of people on the internet are not fond of sports anime, but there's a good reason why this has appeal, maybe at least in Japan. Joining a sports club while still a student is a really big deal, while really isn't too much of a big deal in America, where Americans such as myself tend to feel that sports at the school level is just for, douchebag jocks or whatever. Japanese schools, especially at the junior high level, encourage it more often because they feel it prepares students for society in some way, such as learning about teamwork, understanding senpai-kohai relations, having a goal, and working for it, having fun, and also hard work. To Japanese people seeing this, they can relate to their own youth or what it is that is going on in their lives if they're still students. To me, the opening song was just enough, and it brought me back to the days of the 90s and how I also loved the players of that era. But when watching, you will see Sakuragi grow. At times you will laugh at his stupidity, and at times you will feel sorry for him. The series shows every aspect of what he goes through, and you will see how he will grow from it. You will also see how his relationships with his teammates grow. He may be full of himself, but when the going gets tough, he will work hard and pull through. It's an anime that shows that everybody has the potential at something. Some may be natural, some may need to work harder than others. But when you put your mind to it, all things are possible. And also, for where the anime ends, at that point in the anime, they do introduce some characters who will be very important later on in the manga. And I think the anime only had 2 games left in comparison to the manga. And the manga, it ends in a way where you see why Sakuragi is important to the team. Well, the anime ending it gives, it works in its own way where you see how Sakuragi just grows as an individual in relation to basketball. So each ending kind of offers its own thing, but in the end, the anime still had much more to offer that still has yet to be animated in the same way that the Jinchu arc still needs to be animated for Rurouni Kenshin. But rather than that, I still give Slam Dunk an overall score of a 9.25 out of 10.